Welcome to the Crypto Rodeo Show. I'm here with the core developer of Turtlecoin, Brandon. Brandon, go ahead and introduce yourself here. Let us know how long have you been with Turtlecoin and what is your role there with Turtlecoin?
Sure. Well, thanks for having me on here. I certainly appreciate it. It was very interesting to see your discussion earlier this week when you were talking about Turtlecoin and kind of letting your viewers know a little bit about the project. Myself, I have been working with the Turtlecoin project now since early 2018, right around in the January, February timeframe. So at that point, we're looking at, 3 years, give or take, I guess you could say. And myself, I'm probably one of the few core developers that really kind of maintain the project on a regular basis. The project as a whole is very community driven and it is community supported. However, at the end of the day, people have other things that they get interested in and they kind of come and go, so we'll have contributors that'll come in, contribute a little bit, put a little bit of code in, put a little bit of testing in, and then, they leave for a while and then eventually come back. But at the end of the day, like I said, there's a small handful of us that are what we would call core maintainers or core developers that we haven't gone anywhere. We're still here. We're still chugging away. We're still working on the project. We're still putting the plans together, and we kind of keep things glued together, so to speak, right?
Perfect. Awesome. Now, there's a lot of newcomers to the crypto space today than ever before, actually. And if you were to describe Turtlecoin to someone that's new to the crypto space, what would you say Turtlecoin is and what it does?
Sure. So at its core, Turtlecoin is a safe, fun, and easy way to send money between friends and family, right? That's been the tagline since day one. The project as a whole is a currency. It is a network that we are running, a peer-to-peer network with that currency built on top of that. Some of the core values that we strive for is to help educate people in the crypto space, not only on what crypto is, but how it works, because there's a lot of good information out there, but there's still a whole lot of people that think that it's magic, at the end of the day, and they don't fully understand it. So we really kind of strive to give an educational aspect to how crypto in general works, as I said. And then at the same time, we teach people how to code as well. So it's kind of a community that kind of came together and kind of rallied behind this community project, as I said. It's there's no pre-mine, there's no shenanigans, nothing like that at the end of the day. It's just, people that come together and like to hang out and code and put some stuff together and keep on rocking it out. That's kind of what makes it different for us at the end of the day than some of the other crypto projects out there. So while other teams may put together, let's say, a roadmap or set some goals and stuff like that, everything's kind of loose. Like I said, it's all based upon volunteering and community-driven development. So we tell people, hey, if you want to see something, it's a doer's market. Hop in there and give it a try. And as long as you're not going to break anything in the process, we're all for merging those changes in and making it part of the network if everybody can get behind it. So it's really, like I said, a real good group learning effort to help people better understand what they're getting themselves into instead of just treating it like magic, for lack of better words.
Right. Perfect. Now, I've heard some people saying called Turtlecoin a privacy coin. What why would people want a privacy coin?
So privacy coins are definitely a different breed, to the non-privacy coins at its core. Just to kind of give a couple of tidbits there, when we think about things like Bitcoin and Ethereum, right, we know that those are totally transparent ledgers. Anybody can go out there, see every piece of transactional history that you've done, whether it's sending and receiving, how many coins you've got, what your balances are. That's where any type of privacy coin, including Turtlecoin, I'm getting tongue-tied, Turtlecoin differs, right? It is obscured. It is encryption at its core. It is hiding those balances. We don't know where funds are going from and where they're going to, right? all of that is masked via encryption, and what that allows people to do is it gives them the freedom, I guess you could say, to be able to transact, and not have somebody snooping in to see everything that they're doing. The flip side of that is that because of that, we have fungibility. So at the end of the day, there is no marking coins as bad or poisoned, or which is catch-22, because in some regards, obviously, as we've seen in some of the recent legislation and some of the efforts that have come down through a handful of jurisdictions, they don't necessarily care for the fact that they can't trace, those types of payments.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, it's something that people want. They want the ability to transact as they want without anybody kind of tracing that down. So that's the privacy aspect of it, and we're proud of having that. And as we go into our version 2 build that we're hoping to launch here closer to the end of the year,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to be building on some additional technologies there that, while privacy isn't really the front runner, the first thing that we're kind of aiming for here, it is going to get a huge kick in the pants when we go to V2. Ultimately, because of the technologies that we're bringing into play in an effort to try to make the network run faster, move transactions faster, smaller
Right.
fees, all of that stuff. The technologies that allow us to do that actually increase the amount of privacy. I want to say tenfold, but I'm not going to throw any numbers out there per se, but it's going to be substantially stronger when it comes to the privacy aspect. And like I said, that wasn't the main goal. It's one of those icing on the cake type things.
Right. And speaking of V2, that's the biggest thing everyone's talking about, is the switch from version 1 Turtlecoin to version 2 Turtlecoin. What will version 2 Turtlecoin do versus version 1 Turtlecoin?
So I'll talk a little bit about V1 to start with, so we know where we're at today. V1 is a fork of Forknote, which ultimately, at the end of the day, was a forkable form of the Biticoin code base, so the CryptoNote specification at the end of the day. A handful of different projects out there, that kind of went that route or found their basis in Biticoin. And as a result, we have what are called Borman ring signatures, and just real basic support for mixing, which the mixing, of course, is what allows us to obscure the senders, of transactions out there.
Privacy.
And exactly, the privacy aspects. I'm going to intermingle some geek stuff in here because that's what I am. So it's
okay.
It's okay. So it's a very foundational level of privacy there. It is based on proof of work, of course. We've gone through a number of different mining algorithm changes for V1, from standard Kryptonite to Kryptonite Lite. Our own kind of tweaks on some of those parameters there for what we call it CN Turtle. And then eventually, we kind of moved the route of what we call Chuckwell, which is actually some specific parameter sets, which is where we're at today, as well as with Chuckwell too. So it is very much proof of work, built on some of the changes that we've made, over the last 3 years. Now, as we start to go into V2, some of the additional things that we're going to be doing, or how we're going to be doing things differently, ultimately comes down from the fact that we are not forking from anything. We are starting completely from scratch with the code base. There is no, we're bringing this along with us type thing. There's going to be some concepts that make sense, from the privacy standpoint, because at the end of the day, none of us are cryptographers, but we know what works and we know how to make those pieces work together. Some of the biggest fundamental changes that we're making going into V2 is that we are actually removing the proof of work for the mining of blocks.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, at the end of the day, we know that that's not sustainable going forward. I mean, there's been numerous discussions, numerous posts all over the crypto sphere, right? Talking about how proof of work it's expensive, it eats up energy, it's killing the planet, all that kind of fun stuff.
Right,
and at the end of the day, you can't keep growing that, without considerable, risk. So we're actually going over to a hybrid delegated proof of stake model, which is going to allow users to stake their coins, in an effort to have a chance to get those block rewards and those transaction fees. Obviously, it's considerably less resources required at that point then to mine new blocks. The way that we're doing things differently, or at least differently in our mind, is that you can stake your node to be a candidate, to be a producer or a validator of blocks at the end of the day. And then users can, of course, vote via staking their coins for those individual candidates. And this ultimately drives an election process that is, I'll call it pseudo-random, because it's based upon the blockchain history, in essence, to determine, who lands in the producer buckets, who lands in the validator buckets each round. They do their jobs, everybody gets their rewards. Users get rewards for staking those individual producers and validators. So we're trying to keep things moving in that regard. And that's probably the biggest fundamental difference that we're doing, going from V1 to V2, is the change over to the proof of stake model. The other things that we're kind of doing here is that we've seen, at least in our chain and in numerous other projects, that one of the biggest drivers of chain bloat, just the vast growth of the chain, the size on disk, is the fact that, creating new blocks when there's no transactions, it's a little backwards, right? It doesn't make sense to keep advancing the chain, filling up drive space, if there's nothing for the network to process.
Right.
So we're actually changing it in such a way, and we've tried this in a couple of test ones as well, is that we will not create new blocks unless there are transactions to process. And the way that we're kind of tying this down is that it's not just there's one or two transactions in memory pool, we need to create a block. We're actually doing it a little bit differently in that you actually need to mine your transaction individually. So you can do a small amount of mining that you'll do on your transaction, and that gets submitted, to the network for processing. Once we see enough transactions in aggregate that are going to meet a difficulty level, so to speak, right? Because everybody's familiar with that term. That's when the network knows it's time to bundle those all up and bring those into a block. So we're doing things a little bit different in that regard there. Some of the benefits to that method are, as we've seen on numerous chains over the years, and especially recently, is that we can't make it too easy for people to spam the network with transactions,
right?
Because that can bring the chain to a halt. So that little bit of proof of work that we're asking people to do on their transactions, only when they go to send, serves as a mitigation for spam to some extent. But at the same time, it gives us a mechanism to help us build those blocks only when it's necessary. Nice. So again, that's another step that we're taking. When we dive down into the technology side of things, and I know that I'm just going to keep rolling here, but
no, you're fine.
Stop me if there's anything you want to throw in there or you got any questions. Some of the other stuff that we're bringing to the party are, the equivalent of ring CT that you see in Monero, right?
Okay.
We're going to bring the amount masking into play. So this is going to allow us to do a couple of different things from a technology standpoint. Again, it's gonna help privacy for sure, because today you can see amounts moving around. But the core reasoning behind this is that by employing that amount masking in there and doing that with Peterson commitments, what we're able to do is we're able to reduce the number of inputs and outputs in each transaction. So when we reduce that count down, the transaction gets smaller, the fees get smaller, right? Nice. So that's part of the reason why we're going that route, is it's helping to drive lower fees, smaller transactions. We can fit more in the chain, right? And the chain grows at a slower pace at that point.
So it sounds.
So as you mentioned, go ahead.
It sounds like the version 2 is going to be like exponentially more efficient, really. Like just
very much so.
Okay.
Very much so.
So with it switching to version 2, I'm sure everyone wants to know what happens to my version 1 coins if you're switching to version 2.
That's going to be the fun part, right?
Yeah.
This because it is a total rebuild, right? We are building an entirely new network. It's not a soft fork. It's not a hard fork. The V1 chain is going to end. Okay. It's going to die off, to your point. We're planning to start to transition with the launch of V2 around block 4 million of the V1 chain. And then the plan is that the V1 chain dies at block 5 million. And, well, probably 4,999,900, that type of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's going to end. The emission drops off starting with block 4 million, and it very quickly moves to zero by block 5 million, and then there's some additional code and consensus mechanisms in there as well. So to answer your question, what happens to those coins? When we launch V2, we're going to be launching a swap website. So at the end of the day, you'll go out to the website, you'll enter in what your new V2 address is, because they're not compatible with V1 addresses. The network at that point will watch, and it'll tell you, hey, look, send your V1 coins into this specific address.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to be, in essence, a burn address. So those coins, those V1 coins, you send them in, we see them come in all automatically. The coins are burnt, they won't be retrievable, and we're going to pump out the related V2 coins out to your new V2 wallet on the new network. So it's pretty straightforward in that regard. Now, what we've done in the process, or what we have planned in the process as part of that swap, is in essence a supply reduction.
Okay.
So today there are 1 trillion coins in our total cap.
Okay.
In circulation right now, it's like 98 billion or something like that, or close to 99 billion. But the total cap is, a trillion coins. What we've seen is, with a supply like that, we have massive amounts of dust. Just tons of tiny little inputs in the chain that, you got to keep rolling them up. It's kind of like going to a Coinstar, right? You got to take your bucket full of pennies and turn them into dollar bills,
right,
constantly. And when you're doing that on the network, and you're transacting in that way, and there's all of these Coinstar transactions, we're just bloating the chain over and over and over again. And every transaction, in essence, is creating more dust. Part of the way that we're hoping to solve this in the future is through that coin swap, right? So the reduction that we're going to be doing is that for every 100,000 V1 turtle that you turn in, you're going to get 1 V2 turtle. So it's 100,000 to 1.
Okay.
It's real simple at the end of the day to figure out that math. The downside is anything less than 1,000 V1 turtles, sorry, you're getting zero for it,
right,
at the end of the day. But when you think about it, 1,000 coins, right, out of 1 trillion, let's be honest here, it's nothing, right? So
yes.
we had to draw the line in the sand somewhere. And that's been fun, kind of talking through that process and seeing how the community's responded to that over the last 6 months. All in all, we've got pretty good support for it. At the end of the day, it's easy to understand. Take your number, divide it by 100,000, and if it's less than 0.01, drop it off. The flip side of this, as I talk about it out loud here, is the interesting aspect that, as we know, people lose their keys, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not unusual that crypto gets lost. We know that there's going to be a certain percentage of what I'm going to call unclaimed funds, during the swap period. 1 million blocks, it's about a year. We're hoping that everybody gets in, they swap their coins within that year. If they don't, we have no way to have them transfer V1 coins to us once the chain stops, right? It's done. Whatever's left afterwards, in the V2 funds that are funding that swap process, we're planning to redistribute whatever's left out to the community via transaction fees, on V2. So we'll just send them out as transaction fees.
Mm-hmm.
The stakers will get them, the producers, the validators will get them, depending on how many are left. Again, we don't know what that percentage is. You never know until you do something like this. We may do it in 1 transaction. We may do it in 50 transactions. Who knows at the end of the day? We've even been talking about, kind of turning around and going, since we'll have a list of V2 wallets, right, that those funds were sent to, maybe we'll just do a quick division and just spread them out to everybody that traded out coins.
Oh, nice.
We don't know yet. We don't know. It could be 10 turtle. It could be 1,000 turtle. It could be, 500,000, V2 turtle. We don't know what those numbers look like, right? If there's 5 left, we're probably going to approach it differently than if there's, 500,000 left. It's a totally different story. So
Awesome.
that's in general how that swap process is going to occur, and that move to the V2 chain. And it's exciting to think about. Like I said, at least from what we've seen in the computer, people are excited about the aspect of it. There's definitely some hesitation there, going, man, you're taking my 100 million coins and you're cutting them down to 100.
Yeah, exactly.
And we're like, but guys, it's real simple. It's not like I'm picking on you and cutting yours down. Everybody is getting that conversion, right? So that's the important aspect. And we get, a smaller chain. We get from scratch. We get all this technology. I mean, that's the trade-off at the end of the day, is that we're making it better and we're making it more sustainable in the future by doing all this work.
I think the community in general is actually very excited for the V2 drop. And that's supposed to be towards the end of the year this year?
Correct.
Awesome.
Everything holding true. I believe the estimated date, again, because it's based upon block count, right?
Right.
I believe the estimated date is currently hovering around like October 6th, give or take.
Okay.
It probably won't wiggle too much from there because, again, tied to block time, we're on 30-second blocks right now. There's going to be some variance to that a little bit, but it'll probably be that first week of October.
Awesome.
Is looking like for us.
I'm very excited for Turtlecoin. I mean, it's been a couple weeks and I am very happy with my turtle wallets. My turtle coins have been doing very well. The movement has been great. The community has been growing, I think, and I'm trying to get Turtlecoin out there more on YouTube, especially on Telegram. I try and do my best on my show, the Crypto Rodeo Show. But thank you so much for doing this interview. I think this answers a lot of questions that a lot of people have about Turtlecoin, V1 versus V2. Hopefully we can maybe do another interview when V2 hits. Wouldn't that be cool?
Absolutely, or any point along the way. That's one of the beautiful things is that, as the articles have coming out, and again, I encourage people. I know I didn't get to do a plug or anything like that, so bear with me just a second here. I encourage people, come to the blog, take a look, hop into the Discord chat. That's where all of us devs are at the end of the day, is Discord. There's matrix channels, there's all those kind of bridges. We're on IRC as well. Come have a conversation with us if you have questions.
Right.
We're all about asking questions, but do me a favor. Don't come in there and just ask me what the price is going to be in a year. That's nuts.
End of the year prediction, end of the year.
Yeah. It's funny. I was watching your stream last week, and every time somebody asked, you pulled out the Miss Cleo thing.
Yeah,
right?
Miss Cleo.
That's not how we roll. We're about the technology. We're about the learning, all that kind of stuff. But like I said, come have a conversation. Read through the stuff. I'd be happy to come on and talk again. I'm the one that's actually written all of the articles to date on V2, so it's very near and dear, I guess you could say, to my heart. So I'm absolutely happy to hop on at any point and have another conversation with you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This is Brandon, everybody, one of the core developers for Turtlecoin. Hopefully we'll see you on the Crypto Rodeo Show on Tuesday. Turtle Talk Tuesdays live streams now every week.
I will try to make a note to hop on there and watch.
All right, my friend. You have a wonderful evening.
All right. Thank you, sir.
You got it.